Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavan
Recording in progress.
Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-vaibhava Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to our ongoing study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're looking at 3rd Canto, Chapter 24 today. The renunciation of Kardama Muni. All right, so we heard Devahuti feeling that she had been cheated by the illusory energy. I think all of us get cheated by the illusory energy. Maya, Krishna's energy is very powerful, bewilders the mind of everyone, except, of course, those souls who've surrendered to Lord Krishna. All right, so Devahuti was lamenting, she had 9 daughters, and Kardama Muni wanted to go and leave. He wanted to leave her. So she was feeling that, 9 daughters, they're going to get married, they're going to go away and leave me. I'll be left on my own, there'll be nobody here to guide me. So this was Devahuti's situation. So 24th chapter begins like this with Kardama Muni is going to reply to Devahuti. Verse 1 says, Devahuti, who was speaking words full of renunciation. Devahuti is also a great soul. She's also of a similar nature to her husband. Just as Kardama Muni is eager to renounce the material life, Devahuti is also eager to renounce material life. She also wants to get free from the miseries of the material world. So text number 2, we have Kardama Muni replying to Devahuti. And he's telling her, do not be disappointed with yourself, O princess. You are actually praiseworthy. The infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead will shortly enter your womb as your son. This had already been predicted by Lord Vishnu had told Kardama Muni that he would come as his son. I think Lord Brahma also had told them. So here Kardama Muni is also telling Devahuti that the Lord is going to incarnate. He's going to come from the body of Devahuti. That means he's going to come initially from the body of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni is going to impregnate Devahuti Devahuti will then conceive the child, and the child will be Lord Kapila, who comes to teach Sankhya philosophy. So in text number 3, Kardama Muni continues, encouraging Devahuti, telling her, you have undertaken sacred vows. God will bless you. That's an important statement. All of us, we take also sacred vows when we accept initiation. And if we follow these vows, then we will get the blessings of the Lord. But if we don't follow, if we take it cheaply, and if we try to cheat, then it will create havoc in our life. So Kardama Muni tells Devahuti that she should worship the Lord with great faith, and she should continue to control her senses and practice austerities. And he tells her also, he says, gifts of your money in charity. He encourages her to do this thing. I don't know where she would get money. She was living in a hermitage. She'd left all of the wealth to go and live in the hermitage. But anyway, it's understood that that kind of activity will certainly create piety in a person, and it can bring good fortune. We want blessings. We have to earn the blessings by proper behavior, by proper activities. So Prabhupada writes here, in order to spiritually advance or achieve the mercy of the Lord, one must be self-controlled in the following manners. He must be restrained in sense gratification, and he must follow the rules and regulations of religious principles. Without austerity and penance, and without sacrificing one's riches, one cannot achieve the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So people want the mercy, but they have to understand how to get the mercy, how to attract the mercy of the Lord. So when we practice controlling our mind and senses, and we're faithful to the religious principles, like that, accepting voluntarily the hardships, a little austerity, doing a little austerity, it is very purifying for us. We want to go back to Godhead, we have to be willing to accept some austerity in order to go back to Godhead. That is important. And we have to also develop detachment. And that detachment comes when we sacrifice our hard-earned wealth for the service of the Lord. That is the main point, that our wealth should be used for the service of the Lord. We want to do activities like make a nice temple for Krishna. Prabhupada said, if you have a lot of wealth, build a temple. If you have some land, you just have some land, you don't have much money, just plant tulsis and grow tulsi there. Just by growing tulsi, you can become pious. You can develop our spiritual consciousness just by growing tulsi trees. And then also we can do things like cooking food and then distributing it. After we offer it to the Lord, then we distribute it, distributing prasadam. That's also a very pious activity. It's different ways in which we can please the Lord. We want to give pleasure to the Lord, we have to know how to please him. And when we see the Lord in the hearts of all living entities and treat them accordingly, then the Lord will be pleased. That will be made clear in Lord Kapila's teachings to Devahuti, that it's not enough to just worship the deity, that we have to see the Lord in the heart of all living entities, and we have to also care for them and give proper respect to them. And people in hardship, they need some help. Whatever ability, according to our ability, we should try to help others. Of course, we want to help them to advance in spiritual life. All right, then text number 4. The personality of Godhead, being worshipped by you, will spread my name and fame. He will vanquish the knot of your heart by becoming your son and teaching knowledge of Brahman. So Lord Kapila is going to come, and by the appearance of Lord Kapila, Kardama Muni will become more glorious, because Kardama Muni is the father. And so if the son is glorious, then certainly the father will also be appreciated. And Prabhupada explains, matter and spirit are knotted by false ego. This identification of oneself with matter, which is called Hridaya Granthi, exists for all conditioned souls, and it becomes more and more tightened when there is too much affection for sex life. The explanation was given by Lord Rishabdev to his sons. So the binding knot in material existence is this attraction for the opposite sex. And we have to always be on guard against that. We have to therefore control the mind and senses, and we have to act according to religious principles. The knot in the heart becomes tightened the more we increase the family members. You get another child, it makes another knot in the heart, and then another child, another knot in the heart. This way, you get so many big knots in the heart because of attachment to all of the family members. So that Krishna conscious purpose is to cut through these knots, to cut the knot of attachment to the material existence. The Shastra, or Shastra, there's Shastra and Shastra. One is the book and one is the sword, right? So the sword is used to cut. And the same way, the book, the knowledge of the Shastra is also used to cut the knot of attachment to material existence. We want to get free of that attachment. And it's a sacrifice. It's not easy, we know. We know it's not easy. But if we endeavor, Krishna will help us. It is said, God helps those who help themselves. So if you want to help yourself, surrender to Krishna. That's the best way, to surrender to Krishna. So Devahuti was fully faithful and respectful towards the direction of her husband. Kardama was one of the Prajapatis, and Devahuti began to worship the master of the universe, who is situated in everyone's heart. So Prabhupada talks about this relationship between Kardama Muni and Devahuti. They're husband and wife. And Prabhupada says, there are many instances where the husband becomes the spiritual master. Lord Shiva also is spiritual master of his consort, Parvati. So we speak about Guru Patni, right? Guru Patni, the husband Guru. The guru is like a husband. Just like the father is the guru for the son, so the husband is also meant to be guru for the wife. He's meant to guide the wife out of the material existence. Of course, there's cooperation there. Sometimes the wife has to guide the husband. Some ladies are more spiritually advanced than their husbands. And they help the husband and guide the husband. But it's supposed to be that the husband is able to guide the wife. And we know Kali Yuga, everything is topsy-turvy. There are many spiritually advanced ladies, and they can greatly help their husbands to become advanced. The idea is if the wife is attached to the husband, then if she follows her husband, then at least in the next life she'll get the body of a man. Of course, if the husband is a pure devotee and goes back to Godhead, then the wife can follow the husband also back to Godhead. So that's very nice. It doesn't always happen like that. But if the husband is attached to the wife, then the husband may become a woman in his next life. That is not considered very good. Women's bodies have their own problems, more so than the men. So taking instruction is a very important part of spiritual life. We have spiritual teachers, and in the absence of the spiritual teacher, you have your husband, or you have a wife, or you have shiksha gurus, or you have scriptures. We have to get guidance. We have to take instruction from authorities. It's very important. Do not act independently and whimsically. So Devahuti understood this principle, and she followed the instructions of her husband. So text number 6 continues. After many, many years, the personality of Godhead, Madhusudan, the killer of the demon Madhu, having entered the semen of Kadama, appeared in Devahuti, just as fire comes from wood in a sacrifice. So, Satya Yuga, they lived a long life. It took them many years. Not immediately she got the child. You know, we see Prabhupada talks, women get married, they immediately want a child. They have to be patient. They will get the child in time. So similarly, Devahuti, she wanted the child. It took many, many years. She had to be patient. We want to get perfection in our Krishna consciousness. It can come, but it will take time. We have to practice. Just because we get to instruction doesn't mean it's going to happen immediately. We have to show our determination and perseverance. We have to show our sincerity of purpose. So similarly, Devahuti was tested like that. It took some time before she got this child. So it's interesting how the Lord came, that he takes his birth through the semen of Kadama Muni. And Prabhupada talks about how the Lord manifests in different ways, just like we know Lord Varaha came from the nostril of Lord Brahma. And Lord Nrsingadev appeared from the pillar when he was to fight with Hiranyakashipu. But here in this particular case, the Lord has come from the semen of Kadama. So Prabhupada explains, this manifests his full independence to act in any way, and it does not mean that he is an ordinary living entity, forced to take birth in a certain type of womb. We all took our birth by force. We were forced to enter into a particular womb. We did not choose. We were forced to take our birth. But the Lord, He could choose. But we should not think that He's an ordinary person just because He took birth in this way. That is a defect of the conditioned souls. They're thinking, oh, see, He took birth, I also take birth, so He's like me. So if He's God, I'm also God. We're all God. So Prabhupada says, we should not mistakenly understand that He was born just like an ordinary living entity from the semen of Kardama Muni in the womb of Devahuti. No, He appeared in the womb of Devahuti, but actually He was already there. The Lord is everywhere. So He was already there in the womb of Devahuti. He's everywhere in everything. So He was already there in the womb of Devahuti. But He manifested Himself from that womb to come as Kapila. We can talk like that. So at the time of His descent, the demigods are all aware that the Lord is appearing, and they're very happy, and they're glorifying the situation, and they're shouting flowers, and they're chanting the glories of the Lord. The apsaras are dancing in ecstasy. The demigods are flying freely in the sky, shouting flowers. All the directions, all the waters, everyone's mind became very satisfied. That's the kind of situation we want. We want everyone's mind to be satisfied in Krishna consciousness. So that Lord Brahma comes along with Marichi and the other sages to the place of Kardama's hermitage, surrounded by the river Saraswati. Just like when Lord Krishna appeared in the womb of Devahuti, the demigods all came to offer prayers to Devahuti. So similarly here, Lord Kapila has appeared, and Lord Brahma and Marichi, other sages, they're all coming. They also want to offer their respects and to offer prayers to the Lord. So Brahma could understand that the soul who had appeared was a portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he understood that he'd come to teach this Sankhya Yoga, to teach this knowledge, to free people from material existence. So Prabhupada talks how there's another Kapila. There's the Kapila who's more known is not the Devahuti, but the Kapila who most people have heard of is an atheist. And he presented an atheistic philosophy that life comes from matter. But the philosophy which he presented pleases materialistic scientists. So they like to hear that Kapila philosophy. It's atheistic philosophy, simply mechanistic, that everything comes about by chemicals, interaction of chemicals. But that's what material scientists want. They want to hear that. They want to take God out of the equation, because so long as God is in the equation, they're unable to solve the equation. So they want to deal with matter. So the atheist Kapila, he's commonly known. But the Devahuti Kapila, who is the actual Kapila, the original Kapila, he's not so well known. And it's only in recent times, with the propagation of the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, that people are becoming more aware of Devahuti Kapila. So Prabhupada talks about Lord Brahma, how Lord Brahma is independent, right? It was mentioned here. It said, Lord Brahma, who is almost independent in acquiring knowledge. So Brahma is the self-born in the sense that he took birth from the lotus flower. He has no teacher. His teacher was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know the Vedic knowledge was imparted into the heart of Brahma at the time of the creation. So Lord Brahma is, sometimes he's called Swarat, meaning independent, and Aja, meaning unborn. But we know he's not completely independent, and he's not also unborn. He does take birth, but he's a firstborn. So he's born before everyone else. He has no mother. He just simply came from the lotus flower. So it's like he has a father, but no mother. And he has no teacher. So where did he get the knowledge from? The knowledge was imparted into his heart. So Lord Brahma is almost independent. Of course, we see that also, that creates problems for Lord Brahma, that sometimes he himself thinks he's independent, and he forgets that he's under the control of the Supreme Lord. And that brought about the Brahma Vimohan Leela. Okay, then, so this relationship with Lord Kapila, that he's not the complete Supreme Person, he's not Swayam Bhagavan, he's a Amsha, he's a part. Amsha, Prabhupada said, Amsha means direct expansion, Kala means expansion of the expansion. So direct expansion means like Lord who? Who's the direct expansion of Lord Krishna?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Chaitanya Balaram.
Balaram, yes. Lord Balaram's a direct expansion, right. And who is an expansion of an expansion?
Aniruddha.
Aniruddha, yeah. Could
Sankarshan Maharaj.
Sankarshan, yes, Sankarshan.
Vasudeva Pradyumna.
Yes, Sankarshan comes from Lord Balaram, right? Lord Balaram's expansion, and Sankarshan's expansion of the expansion. Sankarshan comes from Balaram. And then from Sankarshan, then you have Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, the Chaturvyuha. So they all come like that. Okay? So expansions of the expansion. So Lord, Kapila Muni, he is also expansion. He's not directly the Supreme Lord. But Prabhupada said there's no difference between the expansion and the expansion of the expansion and the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. Just like there's no difference between one candle and another. Right? You know that verse in the Brahma Samhita? I'm sure the Madhajis know. The Madhajis know many verses, right?
Yes, Maharaj. Deepa chireva hidashantaramapi pitya deepa yate nitaye kusman dharma. Estargahi vishnutaya vivati govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajam.
Yes, very good. Right. Yeah, we have to know these verses, you know, the Brahma Samhita verses. Brahma Samhita is an important scripture for us. Lord Chaitanya personally brought it from South India. He found it in the Adikeshava temple in South India and brought it to Jagannath Puri and gave everybody copied it. Ramananda Roy copied it, and Swarup Damodar copied it. All the devotees there, they all made a copy. Lord Chaitanya said, this book's very nice. He said, this is our philosophy. So it's an important scripture Prabhupada often quotes. All right, going ahead. After worshipping the Supreme Lord with gladdened senses and a pure heart for his intended activities as an incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kadama and Devahuti. So Brahma first of all worships the Lord Kapila, and he's going to speak to Kadama and Devahuti. He wants to give them some instruction. And Prabhupada talks about how Kadama Muni is a great soul. He's a great soul because he's the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada said, one who can become the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly a great devotee. And it's not just only we worship the Lord, but we worship the Lord and his devotees. We say the topmost worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. And even greater than the worship of Vishnu is the worship of those things in relationship to Vishnu. So that we can understand the worship of people like Kadama Muni is even greater than the worship of Kapila. Because Kadama is in relationship to the Lord. And Prabhupada quotes this verse in the purport. He quotes a verse in the purport, which is given by Rupa Goswami, about how a Brahmana is saying, he said, yes, Lord Krishna is very great, but I want to worship Nanda Maharaj, the son, the father of Krishna. To worship the Father is even greater than to worship the Lord himself. It's the Father I want to worship, because the Lord is crawling in the child, the Lord crawls in the home of the Father. So devotees feel like that. They feel so much awe and respect towards the parents of the Lord. And we see in Christianity how they worship Mary, the mother of God, right? They talk about Jesus as being God and worship Mary. So here also, if you can get a son who's an incarnation of God, then it's very wonderful. That's the kind of child we want. We don't want an ordinary child. We want a child who's an incarnation of the Lord. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wanted like that. That's why he had so many children. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 11, 12 children. He wanted children who would help him to preach. And it was Bhaktisiddhanta, he was the fourth child. He was a ray of Vishnu. He was a ray of Vishnu. So it was a great help to Bhaktivinoda Thakur in spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Brahma wants to congratulate Kadama Muni for following his instructions. Lord Brahma had asked Kadama that, help me to populate the universe, produce children. So Kadama had done that. He had had 9 daughters, and now now also a son has come. So this is very pleasing to Lord Brahma. So carrying out the order of the superiors is very important. And Lord Brahma says, whatever instruction you took from me, you have carried out, and thereby you have honored me. So Prabhupada wanted, very carefully, he wanted us to follow all his instructions. And that honors Prabhupada. When we follow Prabhupada's instructions, that gives credit to Prabhupada. If we don't follow, then it brings disrepute to Prabhupada. People will disrespect Prabhupada. So very important for us how carefully we have to be to follow the instructions which Prabhupada gave us. And then people can properly respect Srila Prabhupada and the Krishna consciousness movement. And Prabhupada, in the purport, Prabhupada explains what it means to honor the spiritual master. He said to honor the spiritual master means to carry out the instructions of the spiritual master. Of course, we know there's the example Bali Maharaj disobeyed Sukracharya's instruction. Can you think of some other examples where the devotee carries out the order of the father, even though it may have been very difficult?
Lord Ramchandra Maharaj.
Lord Ramachandra, what did he do?
Dasharatha Maharaj says to him to go to the exile. So he doesn't reject.
Right, yeah. Even though he was initially expecting to be coronated, to become the king. But instead, it was arranged that he would go to forest. And he immediately... Yes?
Yayati also.
What?
His son Puru, that when he says that to give the youth to him, he gives the youth to Yayati Maharaj.
Oh, yes, right. Yayati was cursed to become an old man, right? And Yayati protested because he had a young wife. And so the young wife, she was the daughter of Sukracharya. Was it Sukracharya? No, Brihas. Who was she the daughter of? Yayati's wife was the daughter of who?
Sukracharya.
Sukracharya, yeah, okay. So, Yayati was cursed to become old man. And he said, well, if you curse me to become old, it will be a big problem for your daughter, because she's a young woman. I won't be able to satisfy her. So then he said, then if one of your sons will accept your old age, then you can transfer your old age to him. So different sons were approached, the oldest son, but they didn't want to do it, right? Why not? What was it? Why they didn't want to take the old age of the father? Did you ever ask your son, do you have a son? You could ask your son, please take my old age, let me become you. You take my old age. Do you think your son would do it? No. Who wants to become old? Nobody wants it. So there was the sons of Yayati, they said, well, we ourselves, we don't want to take the old age yet, because we want to, we want, later on we want to renounce. And if we take the old age now without enjoying, then it will be very difficult. So the Vedic system is like that. That when one is a young man, then one young man at that time, then you get married and you enjoy family life. And then later on, as the body ages, then you're more qualified to renounce. It's difficult for young people to renounce. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was surprised to see Lord Chaitanya, a very young man, 24 years old, and he was renounced. So it was quite a surprise to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Usually sannyasis' renunciation is for old men, because they've already satisfied their senses and they can give up material life. Some rare souls can go right through life, naistika brahmachari. They have no interest to enjoy the material world. But that's not very common. For most people, they need to go through family life, they need to be married, they need to have some enjoyment, and then later on, then they can renounce. And so Yayati, his sons, they didn't want to accept their father's old age. It was left to Puru, the youngest one, and Puru agreed to accept it. And Yayati, later on, after Yayati had enjoyed fully and satisfied his senses, then he came back to take the old age again. And at that time, he made Puru the king. Puru became the head. Although he was the youngest son, he was given the throne because he had accepted the desire of the father. And Prabhupada explains, he said, there is putra and mutra. So if the son does not follow the desire of the father, then the father thinks that son is useless. I would have been better simply to pass urine rather than to have a child. And so Prabhupada talks like that. In the same way, the duty of the disciple is to serve the order of the spiritual master, to understand the desire of the spiritual master. Prabhupada explained, he said, I have been cursed by so many parents. He said, because I have taken so many young people away from the home of their family, their parents have cursed me. And the curse is that I'm forced to travel. I'm going around the world preaching. That's their curse, that they cursed me that I could not stay in any one place. So Prabhupada asked his disciples, he said, those of you who are disciples, who are sannyasis especially, he said, you should travel and preach on my behalf. And I said, in this way, then I can sit down and I can write my books, and I can concentrate on writing the books before I leave the world. So Prabhupada wanted also his disciples to accept that curse on his behalf, so that he could be free to write the books. So the point is, we should understand the desire of the spiritual master, and we should do our best to help to serve that desire of the spiritual master. And following the order of the spiritual master means to honor the disciple. You may do very nice puja, but if you don't follow the instructions of the guru, that kind of puja is not very meaningful. So we have to follow the instructions very carefully. All right, so text number 13. Lord Brahma speaking, he says, sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, yes, sir. Right? Military discipline. Military discipline. Prabhupada actually liked that. He liked to see that devotees could organize nicely. He wanted to see some discipline. And just yesterday we had the Vyasa Puja of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. So Tamal Krishna Goswami was one of Prabhupada's senior disciples, and he liked very much to organize things. He was quite a disciplinarian. And he would organize everything very nicely. And Prabhupada liked that. For example, when the devotees would all go on Harinam, he had all the devotees dressed in the same color, and all the ladies in saris in the same color, and like that. Devotees they'd look very organized. You know, young people, you know, sometimes they go out on Harinam nowadays and they don't even dress in devotee clothes. And they're doing kirtan, but they're not even wearing the devotee dress. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was very good in organizing things. And he got cloth for everyone, and everyone wore nice dhoti and kurta and sari. And the ladies all had their hair tied, not hanging loosely over their shoulders. And the men were all shaved-headed and nice tilak on. And in this way, you know, you could see the organization, military discipline, right? Fighting Maya. So Prabhupada liked that. And it was Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he had a group of young men. They were traveling in America distributing books. They were called the Radha Damodar Traveling Party. So they had these buses and they had deities in the bus, and they would travel and distribute books. They'd do programs in the universities. And they attracted many, many people to Krishna consciousness. Yes, it's very attractive. We want to attract people to Krishna consciousness. You know, some people go on Harinam and they just wear karmic clothes, and you know, it doesn't look the same. But when they have the nice spiritual dress on, you can feel this is a spiritual movement. So Krishna consciousness is a movement. We want to be part of that movement. And part of that movement is wearing the spiritual dress and all the markings like the tilak, and we also shave our heads. We don't have long hair. We don't have beards. Nowadays you see everyone, they all have these beards. All the different people are so fond of growing their beards, but devotees like to be clean shaven. When Sanatana Goswami came to Lord Chaitanya in Benares, Sanatana Goswami had been living with the Mohammedans, with the Nawab there in Ramakeli. But then he came to Benares to join Lord Chaitanya. So when he came, he had a beard. So Lord Chaitanya told the devotees, take him and make him clean. Make him clean. In other words, shave his head, shave his face. Prabhupada liked to see devotees also clean shaven, head and face. He liked to see us like that. That was the sign that we are connecting ourselves to Krishna and to Prabhupada's movement. These are the things Prabhupada taught us. So our obedience to the order of the spiritual master it begins by doing these kind of things. We should try to understand the desire of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, at the end of the purport, text number 13, Prabhupada writes, one may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master, as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifest before him. Right? What verse is that? You know this verse from the scriptures? Marriages, you know this verse? Faith in the spiritual master and in the Lord, then all the purports of the scriptures is revealed. Nobody know the verse? Maybe when I tell you, you know it. Yasha Devi Parabhakti. Yes? You know the verse? No? You're not learning verses very well, huh? Yashya deve parabhaktir yata deve tata guru tashaiti prakitahyarta prakashanti mahatmana. One who has faith in both Krishna and in the spiritual teacher, then all the imports of the scriptures are revealed very easily. We ask people, do you have more faith in Krishna or more faith in the Guru? Sometimes people say, oh, I have more faith in my Guru. That's not right. And sometimes people say, I have more faith in Krishna. That's also not right. Because Guru is representative of Krishna. So the two are not different. So faith should be equal. Equal faith in both Guru and in Krishna. We see the Guru as the representative of Krishna. So whatever he's telling us, it's the words, it's the desire of Krishna. And when we have that kind of faith, then everything is revealed. Right? The difference between Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttama is based on, one is faith, other is knowledge. Faith. The Kanishta has weak faith. He can easily give up. And he doesn't have much knowledge either. So he can easily be put into Maya. But the Madhyama devotee, he has strong faith. He's still not very expert in arguments, but he has strong faith. And the Uttama, he has strong faith and good knowledge. He can defeat all the arguments. So devotees are classified like that according to their faith. So we want to have strong... How do we get faith? By hearing and chanting and by association. If we associate with people who have faith, then certainly we will also get faith. It will rub off on us. We will also be inspired. So very important. If you can get even a moment's association, we say lavamatra sadhu sange sarvasari. One moment's association can give us so much faith. Prabhupada said, the reason why I am traveling so much is because if I don't travel, you will all fall down. He said, I'm traveling just to save you, to keep you all in Krishna consciousness. Because whenever Prabhupada would come, our faith would increase so much. We saw Prabhupada, and just seeing Prabhupada, we'd feel so much faith in Krishna consciousness. Okay, going ahead, text number 14. Okay, Lord Brahma praised Kadama Muni's 9 daughters. Yeah, Lord Brahma wants to see the universe populated, so having 9 daughters was very good, because they can all get married and they can all have many offspring. Their children can populate the universe. So Brahma was happy. If you just have men, you know, people often, oh, I want a son, I want a son. We don't mind son or women. Women are also very important. Very important to have daughters as well. You can't just only have sons. Some people are so eager, oh, I just want a son, I don't want a daughter. But if you just have all men, you don't have any women, and then the world will come to an end. It's the women who have to give birth. The women have a very big role to play. So having 9 daughters, it was a great service done by Kadama Muni, and Lord Brahma appreciated that, because there were sages, 9 sages, who needed to have a wife. So Kadama Muni had very nice daughters, and certainly they will all be arranged. Brahma says, actually, he says, please give away your daughters to the foremost of the sages, with due respect for the right temperament and likings, and thereby spread your fame all over the universe. So he had 9 daughters, but they're not all the same. Physically, they were all the same. They were attractive, and they were thin-waisted, and they looked like, but they had different natures, naturally. Even you have twins, we have several devotees I know nowadays, they have twins. And so the twins they're not the same, One's different from the other. The nature, although they look alike, they may be identical in appearance, but their habits, their nature is very different. So similarly, Kadama Muni's 9 daughters, they're all different. They have different natures. And Lord Brahma tells Kadama Muni, you have to get them married according to their temperament and likings. So there were great sages, and they have to find the sage who is appropriate for that particular girl. And Prabhupada talks about this in the purport. He says, the daughters should be handed over to the respective rishis, not blindly, but according to the combination of character and taste. This is the art of combining a man and woman. Man and woman should not be united simply on the consideration of sex life. There are many other considerations, especially character and taste. If the taste and character differ between the man and the woman, their combination will be unhappy. So, yeah, this is an obvious fact which we can understand, and probably maybe even know by your own experience, that if the woman is very much materialistic and ambitious to improve her material standard of living, and the man is more in the mode of goodness and easygoing and not so motivated, then it can be difficult. It can be difficult together. So the character and taste, matching people, very difficult, very difficult. And we see in the Kali Yuga how so much divorce is there because people don't know how to combine man and women. Even we don't know ourselves who is a suitable companion. Often you get married to the man may marry simply on the basis of physical attraction. But that physical attraction is very temporary. And even though there may be some physical attraction, you can be very different in character and taste. Some women, they like to go and socialize. They like to go to nightclubs. They like to go out and eat outside. And some men, they don't. They just like to be at home. They just want to have a family and be at home and eat at home. I knew one couple, the man had married this woman, and the woman was quite physically attractive. But the problem was whenever they went out, people would all look at the woman because she was so physically attractive, and people would say, oh, your wife is very beautiful, oh, you have a very beautiful wife. It got to the point the man didn't want to go out anymore. It was just so uncomfortable. He just felt so uncomfortable going out with his wife because everybody would tell him, oh, your wife is so beautiful, oh, you have such a good-looking wife. He just got tired of it. So he said, I'm not going to go out with her. He wouldn't go out with her anymore. The poor woman, she would go out with her friend, with another woman friend. But she liked to go out and he didn't. So that's a big problem. Some people are really socialites, and other people are more quiet and introvert. Somebody's happy to sit at home and read a book, and other people just, they want to be more physical and active, they want to go out. So understanding character and taste is very important to match people. And so Lord Brahma warns Kardama Muni, your daughter should be handed over to the rishis according to taste and character. A girl of godly qualities should be handed over to a boy of godly qualities. A girl of demonic quality should be handed over to a boy of demonic quality. Then they will be happy. But if the girl is demonic and the boy is godly, they cannot be happy in such a situation. At the present moment, because boys and girls are not married according to quality and character, most marriages are unhappy and there is divorce. It is foretold in the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam that in the age of Kali, married life will be accepted on the consideration of sex only. When the boy and girl are pleased in sex, they get married. And when there is deficiency in sex, they separate. That is not actual marriage, but a combination of man and women like cats and dogs. That is Prabhupada's opinion of these things. There's just animal life. So according to the Vedic system of marriage for producing children, every man and woman was enlightened in spiritual knowledge. And at the time of their combination to produce a child, everything was scrutinizing and scientifically done. Of course, people don't know this art. They don't know this science. This knowledge, it's not common. It's confidential knowledge. And it takes also some purity to accept this kind of knowledge. To tell people that, there's actually there's a science to begetting good quality children. People just don't know it. They never heard it before. Nobody had ever mentioned it to them. It's bewildered. What, really? Huh? It's something completely new to people. Actually, it's ancient. This is timeless knowledge. It's all here in Srimad Bhagavatam. We have to be guided by it. So our Krishna consciousness movement is meant for producing children of very high spiritual qualities. And in order to get these kind of children, everything has to be done very scientifically and very carefully. Then we will get good quality children. It's difficult nowadays. We see also sometimes now you get things like test tube babies and things. It's not even the husband's semen anymore. Some other test tube, you don't know where the semen came from. So many problems in trying to arrange these things. Anyway, Prabhupada talks about the importance of spiritual knowledge, education, very important. And people should be educated in this from the beginning of life. It's important. People need to know these things. And then it's very clear to them. How do people get their education today? They watch Bollywood movies, and they see young women being raped and things like that, and they think, oh, this is how it is. everything, all their education comes from watching television programs, and they think, oh, this is how it is. They have no idea how it's meant to be. So we're trying to educate people in these things, and those people who are fortunate, then they will accept. Okay, text number 16. Lord Brahma speaking, he says, I know that the original personality of Godhead has now appeared as an incarnation by his internal energy. He is the bestower of all that is desired by the living entities, and he has now assumed the body of Kapil Muni. So you can see Brahma is in he's in knowledge of the situation. He understands the Lord has come, and he understands how the Lord came, that he came by his own internal potency. So Lord Brahma speaking about Kapila Muni, about what he's going to teach. He's going to teach this mystic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures. And he describes also the appearance of Kapila Muni, that he has golden hair, eyes like lotus petals, lotus feet marked with the lotus flower. So the different symbols, how to recognize who is actually an incarnation of the Lord. The physical activities and the features of the body of the Lord also. When someone's an incarnation of God, then show it. Let me see your hand. Do you have the Sudarshan chakra on your hand? Do you have lotus flowers on your feet? Are there auspicious markings on your feet? We can see the nature of things just by looking. Those people who know that the science, they can see the marks, they can see the lines on the hand, the lines on the feet, they can understand. So Prabhupada talks about knowledge, transcendental knowledge, that of course we get transcendental knowledge from the scriptures, and it should be received through the disciplic succession. So there's Gyan, we get the knowledge, and then we have to apply that knowledge, that is the Vigyan. Prabhupada said, we don't need to do any research. Sometimes people say we're doing research. Or was Mahatma Gandhi wrote a book, Research. Prabhupada said, there's no need to do any research. He said, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they have already researched by the Goswamis. Narasimha Swami. He said, everything is done. They scrutinizingly studied all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles. So we don't have to waste time in research. We have to study the scriptures and apply. The knowledge is there. So the Vigyan, application of the knowledge, using it properly. This is taught by Lord Kapila. So Sankhya system of philosophy is based on Gyan and Vigyan. Just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. Lord Chaitanya was glorified by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. After Lord Chaitanya explained the Atmarama Sloka to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya understood Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must be the Lord. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed the Sadbhuj form. So then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya compiled verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in one of the verses he has written, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharta Eka Purusha Purana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sharera Dari Kripambudir Yastwam Aham Prapadye. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach us Vairagya as well as Vidya, along with Bhakti. Of course, where there is Bhakti, there will also be Gyan and Vairag. So Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach these things. And similarly, Lord Kapila, he has come also, he's teaching these things also in the Satya Yuga, in presenting the Sankhya philosophy. He was also teaching Vairagya and Vidya. So Vairagya, detachment from what does not foster Krishna consciousness. And Vidya, transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Okay. So Lord Brahma tells Devahuti, he said, well, he's telling about Lord Kapila, about her son's activities. That the Lord has come, that same Lord who killed the demon Kaitaba is now in your womb. And he will cut all the knots of your ignorance and doubt. And then he will travel all over the world. So Lord Brahma is telling the future that your son is going to give you this transcendental knowledge. And that knowledge will cut the knots of ignorance. The attachments to the material world will be cut by the weapon of knowledge. Prabhupada writes, the knot of doubtfulness is tied when the soul identifies with the material world. That knot is also called ahankar, the junction of matter and spirit. By proper knowledge received from the scripture in disciplic succession, and by proper application of that knowledge, one can free himself from the binding combination of matter and spirit. So Brahma assures Devahuti her son will enlighten her. And after enlightening her, he will travel all over the world and distribute the system of Sankhya philosophy. So this was a very, very long time ago, millions of years ago. You may wonder, where is that knowledge? What happened to that knowledge? In course of time, the knowledge is lost. But Lord Kapila did teach this Sankhya philosophy. After enlightening Devahuti, then he will go and travel around the world. All right? So, Lord Brahma is telling Devahuti that she's going to be fortunate, that her son will teach her, he will enlighten her. But then he also tells her, he's not going to stay with you. He's not just going to stay and take care of you. He's going to travel and preach, to distribute that knowledge. So Lord Brahma continues glorifying Lord Kapila. Text 19. Your son will be the head of all the perfected souls. He will be approved by the acharyas, and he will be celebrated by the name Kapila. As the son of Devahuti, he will increase your fame. So you have a famous son, and certainly mother, father also become famous, the parents. So Lord Brahma had come to welcome, to receive Lord Kapila and to guide Kadama Muni and Devahuti to make sure they're clear about what's happening. And then Lord Brahma goes back to Satyaloka, to Brahmaloka. And with him go the 4 Kumaras and Narada. Now when Lord Brahma came, he brought with him the sages. Great sages had come with him. But they're not going to go back. They stay there because they're going to get married. But the 4 Kumaras and Narada Muni, they go back with Brahma. They go back to the higher planets, to Satyaloka. 4 Kumaras, usually they're in Tapaloka. And Narada Muni, he's traveling everywhere. But the 9 sages who had also come with Lord Brahma, they stay there because they are going to get married to the daughters of Kadama Muni. But the 4 Kumaras and Narada, they're Naistika Brahmacharis. They're not going to, so they leave. They don't stay for the wedding. They don't take part in those kind of functions, right? They were not to attend the marriage ceremony of their other brothers, Marichi and the other sages. And therefore, they went back with their father, Hamsa, or Lord Brahma. You may say, why didn't they stay for the marriage? Well, because they're brahmacharis. You know, brahmacharis don't fit in so well in that kind of atmosphere when it's a marriage and so on. It's not customary for the brahmacharis or sannyasis to be there at the time of the marriage. What they do after the marriage, they can come and give blessings. That is what happens. Come and give blessings after the marriage. But they don't need to, they don't sit, they don't take part, they don't come to see the marriage. So Brahma had gone, and then Kadama Muni, he has to arrange for the marriage of the different daughters, and then we are told which sage gets which daughter. He handed his daughter Kala to Marichi, and Anasuya to Atri, Shraddha to Angira, Havirbu to Pulastya, Gati to Pulaha, the chaste Kriya to Kratu, Kyati to Brigu, Arundhati to Vashishta. No, and this, all the different sages, they all get married. And so the sages, the sages are all happy. They're very happy. They've got their wife according to their own character and taste. They're given this beautiful wife. She's thin-waisted and attractive, and they're matched according to their character and taste. So the sages are very happy, and they take leave of Kadama Muni. It's described, they departed full of joy, each for his own hermitage. They're very happy to have their wife with them, to help them in their duties. So that when Kadama Muni understood, going ahead, text 26, Kadama Muni understood that the Lord had descended, then Kadama Muni came to the Lord, he comes to Lord Kapila, offered obeisances, and he is speaking. So we're hearing Kadama Muni speak to Lord Kapila. So Kadama Muni begins to say that after a long time, the demigods of the universe have become pleased with the suffering souls who are in material entanglement because of their own misdeeds. Yeah, we're entangled in the material world. It's not by chance. It's our own fault. We're responsible for our own destiny. Our own activities create our own problems, our own successes and difficulties. It's not by chance. Everything is arranged by the Lord. We cannot try to blame other people. Oh, if only it wasn't like this. Oh, if only that. No, we have to understand we are responsible for our own destiny. So we have to be very cautious and thoughtful and think about what is our goal in life. So Prabhupada writes, when the demigods become distressed by the suffering of the conditioned souls, they approach the Lord to remedy the suffering, and the personality of Godhead descends. Right? Can you think of some examples like that? Where the world was suffering and the demigods prayed to the Lord?
Lord Varaha appearing Lord.
Yes, what happened? Who prayed? Yeah, Lord Varaha came. Why did Lord Varaha come? Who brought him?
Yeah, actually, when Diti was pregnant of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and the complete universe was become black, dark, and there was so many inauspiciousness, and the demigod approached Lord Brahma.
No. You've not got it quite correct. You're in connection with the appearance of Lord Varaha. Why did Lord Varaha come?
Because Hare Krishna, because the earth was indented in the ocean.
Right, that's the point. The earth was in the what ocean?
Garbhodak ocean.
Garbhodak ocean, right. And who prays for, who's asking about it?
Lord Brahmaji.
Who came to Brahma to tell him?
Swayambhuva Manu?
Yes, Swayambhuva Manu and his wife, they came to Brahma. They say, you know, you want us to help you to populate the universe, but the earth is in the bottom of the universe. So can you pick it up? And at that time, then, the Lord appears from the nostril of Brahma. Right. Okay. Another example. The demigods go and they're worried. They go to pray.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, that is when for the Krishna's descendants, so when there will be a lot of demon kings who will be pressurizing the earth, and there'll be the entire earth will be loaded with these demonic people. Then the demigods goes to Vishnu, that is Krishna, and ask him to descend.
Yes,
so that
right. Yes, very good. That's right, Prabhu. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Just a minute. Mother Earth comes to Lord Brahma, and all the demigods, they come to Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma prays to who? Lord Brahma prays to Lord Vishnu in Swetadvip. And at that time they get the message that the Lord said, I'm going to come, and you should all take birth in the Yadu dynasty. Like that. Yes, the earth was overburdened with all the demonic Kshatriyas, so Mother Earth went to Lord Brahma to appeal for help, and the Lord said, I'm going to come. Okay, that was a nice example. Yes? Any other?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, even Lord Chaitanya appeared. That time Advaita Acharya also prayed Lord.
Okay, yes, Advaita Acharya prayed to the Lord that that he was Mahavishnu himself, but he felt he couldn't do it, he wasn't powerful enough to save the world. He said, the Lord has to come, you have to come yourself to deliver everyone. There's so much Maya, there's so much demigod worship and Kali Puja and everything going on. You have to come and deliver them and give real bhakti. Okay? Anything else? What about Prithu Maharaj? The earth was really in a bad condition. There was no food. Yes?
Krishna, even Aditi prayed in order to save her sons. She prayed to Lord so that he can appear as Vaman.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, so many examples like that. Some distress there, they pray to the Lord. Sometimes the demigods themselves pray to the Lord. The demigods are worried about the universal situation and they're not able to correct the situation. Sometimes the demons are so powerful, the demigods can't do anything themselves and they have to go to the Lord for help.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, there's the example of Kurmadev as well. The demigods went to ask for help.
Kurmadev, what happened?
When there was a fight between the demons and the devatas, they asked for the help of the Lord to come and help them in the churning of the milk ocean.
Okay. Yeah. How did the Lord come? In what form did he come?
First he came in the form of a tortoise under the mountain, and then he also came as Mohini Devi to help them further.
To help to distribute the nectar. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, Lord, we're hearing, who's speaking? Yeah, Kadama Muni speaking now. Kadama Muni speaking to Lord Kapila. Text 28, after many births, mature yogis by complete trance in yoga endeavor in secluded places to see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we want to see the Lord, That's considered, some people think that's the goal, the success, to see the Lord. We want to see. So mentioned here, you can practice yoga, you want to see the Lord. You have to practice for many years. It's not a small thing. Prabhupada talks about that. He said, practice yoga. He said, many years you have to practice. It's not just, sit down for half an hour when you feel like it and meditate on the Lord. It's something you have to really focus, you really have to concentrate on. Prabhupada, he says, the jnani who has matured in transcendental knowledge surrenders to Krishna. After many years, many births of practice. We see commercial yoga, people do the yoga asanas, and they have no idea what is real yoga. And then text 29, not considering the negligence of ordinary householders like us, that very same personality of Godhead appears in our home just to support his devotees. So Kadama Muni describes himself like that. He criticizes himself. He said, the negligence of ordinary householders like us. And so Kadama Muni, he's still in householder life. He hasn't renounced yet. Then he understands that some of the problems that sometimes we neglect. It's not, Prabhupada says, devotional service to the Lord is so easy that even a householder can see the Lord. But if you have to do yoga, then that's a different thing. He said he was a householder, although a yogi, but he had the incarnation of the Lord as his son. So most yogis are not householders. Kardama Muni was an exception. But he's a devotee. Because he was a devotee, he can be a householder. In other forms of yoga, then it's not so, you cannot, if you're doing karma yoga or ashtanga yoga, you have to be completely detached, you have to be single, like that. You cannot do these things. So Kardama Muni realizes some of the problems. He's grateful that the Lord has come. But he understands also that Kardama Muni, he understands he had his own attachments, he had his own problems in material life. So Prabhupada in the purport talks about how Krishna is Bhakta-vatsala. He's not Karma-vatsala or Jnana-vatsala, but he is Bhakta-vatsala. He reciprocates with the devotees, not with the karmis or the jnanis. He only reciprocates with the devotees. Krishna has a relationship with the devotees. And Kardama Muni, because he's a devotee, he's able to see the Lord face to face. And you can see in the purport, Prabhupada explains that Sankhya philosophy is the same as devotional service. So if you distribute Sankhya philosophy, it's not different from distributing devotional service. The Sankhya philosophy is not based on speculation. Unlike Gyan, the process of Gyan is all speculation. But Sankhya philosophy means to establish devotional service. Real knowledge, real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service. That is real knowledge. We want that kind of knowledge. So Kardama Muni continues to glorify Lord Kapila. He said, although you have no material form, you have your own innumerable forms. They truly are your transcendental forms, which are pleasing to your devotees. So he said, the Lord has no material form. He has forms, but not material form. This is difficult for the impersonalists to understand. They cannot understand how the Lord can have a form which is spiritual, because they think in the spiritual realm there is no form. There's only simply energy. There's only light. They cannot understand the nature of spiritual existence. However, Kardama Muni, he can understand, and he describes here, the Lord has many forms. And none of these forms are material. They're all spiritual forms. And so this is, of course, this has been explained many times in Bhagavad Gita, Ishopanishad also a lot. And Prabhupada said there are many thousands and thousands of forms. They are all Vishnu Tattva. They're all Krishna. Krishna has so many forms, Ananta Rup, as many as there are waves on the ocean. Okay, then text 32. Kadama Muni is offering his prayers of surrender to the Lord, and he's glorifying the Lord, describing how the Lord is full of all opulences and how he wants to surrender to his lotus feet. And he continues like that in text 33 also. Maintainer of all the universe, the three modes of material nature, absorbs the material manifestation after the dissolution. So Kadama Muni is describing the Lord's position, how he's the original cause of everything. Everything comes from him, and at the end everything is annihilated, enters back in. And the Lord has everything. He's complete and full in every way. He possesses all opulences. He's not lacking in any way. He has no material defects as we have. We have so many problems with the material energy. But the Lord himself, he is the controller of the material energy. And he comes in so many different forms to display pastimes just to attract conditioned souls, to attract all of us, that we will become drawn to want more of the Lord's association and to hear more about the glories of the Lord. So then we come to text 34, and Kadama Muni is going to make his request, right? When we offer prayers, usually there's a request coming at the end of it. You want something. You know, sometimes your child may come and they're so nice to you, and then you wonder, what do they want? And then they come, you know, they will ask, oh, mommy, can you get me a new handphone? I want a new handphone. Something like that, you know. So here we see Kadama Muni. He'd been offering prayers, glorifying the Lord. And now, text 34, he said, I have something to ask from you. Now, of course, he wants something. So, what does he want? He said, I have now been liberated by you from my debts to my father. Right? He's paid his debts to his father. He produced the children. So that debt was taken care of. It said, you know, we have different debts in the world. We have debts to our parents. The duty to our parents is to get married and produce children. And our debt to the parents is not relieved until we do that. And you generally find, you know, if you don't get married, your parents will push you. You've got to get married, and you don't have a child. Why you don't have a child yet? You should have a child. That's part of the debt in family life, debt to the father. So Kadama Muni said, I paid my debt to my father now. I produced children. So all desires have been fulfilled. We have debts to the sages also, debts to the sages. We're meant to study the scriptures. Debts to the demigods. We're meant to do sacrifices. But of course, if we surrender to Krishna, then all of these debts are all taken care of. So Kadama Muni says, it said, I paid my debt to my father. He said, now I wish to accept the order of an itinerant mendicant. Renouncing family life, I wish to wander about, free from lamentation, thinking always of you in my heart. So this is Kadama Muni's request, which he is making to Lord Kapila. not directly in front of Devahuti. He brought Lord Kapila away into a quiet place, and Kardama Muni is expressing his desire to Lord Kapila, that I want to renounce, I want to just wander about the world. He said, free from lamentation. Well, can you not be free from lamentation in family life? Do you have to give up family life to renounce? You can be renounced and also be in family life. And you can be free from lamentation in family life also. And thinking always of you in my heart. We can think of the Lord also in the heart. We can be at home. We don't need to leave the home. What do you say? Huh? Why does Kardama Muni need to leave home?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, because he wanted to set an example for himself, because he was initially a Muni, and then after that, after the Grihastha, after leading a perfect Grihastha life, he wanted to show to the world that, see that, that Kardama Muni, after the right time, he renounced.
Okay. To set an example. Yes? Anybody else? What would you say, ladies, if your husband was to come home and say, all right, I've done my duties now, you've got children now, and now I'm ready, I want to renounce, I want to go and become a mendicant. What will you say?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's a very clear, Kardama had very clear goal in his life, reaching the ultimate fruition of life. Got it.
Yes, his goal is what? Just to get free of the home, to get free of the responsibility.
Ultimately achieving the lotus feet of the Lord. It was very much fixed in the beginning itself. Before marriage, he told, after getting, I will not be staying in the family.
Okay. Yes, he warned his wife. He told his wife that after we have a child, then I will renounce again. Yes, anything else? No, this is the Vedic system, right? The Vedic system, Varnashram Dharma. Householder ashram is one phase of life. It's not that you're supposed to remain in family life eternally. We're supposed to move on. We move on into the next ashram. That is successful grihastha life, when you move into the next ashram. And nature naturally arranges that. It's naturally arranged because we get older. We get older, and it's no longer so, just our interests and our moods are different. Live together in the family for 25 years, and then after 25 years, you're quite familiar with everyone. So it's time to move on. So Kardama Muni, he felt he'd done his duty, and it was time for him to move on, then to the next ashram. And Prabhupada talks, of course, if there's no obstacle at home, you can remain at home. You can remain at home, you can do it. You don't need to leave home. So if the home is favorable, if the home life is favorable for practicing Krishna consciousness, there's no need to leave home. So Kardama Muni, he could have stayed at home, but he decided there was no need for him to be at home, because he's already got a son who's the incarnation of God. So there's no real responsibility for him to be there. He can't do anything. His son is there. His son is going to enlighten his wife. His son is going to take care of Devahuti and give her transcendental knowledge. What's Kardama Muni going to do there? So there was nothing for him to stay there. There was no need for him to stay there. Therefore he left. So Prabhupada explains something about this. Talks about taking sannyas. Of course, Prabhupada he did this. Prabhupada said he did it, he changed his ashram only with the greatest reluctance. With the greatest reluctance. And he said the sannyasi's business is not to become proprietor of so many things and amass money from the innocent public. A sannyasi is proud that he is always thinking of Krishna within himself. Of course, there are two kinds of devotees. One is called Gostavanandi, which means those who are preachers and have many followers for preaching the glories of the Lord, and who live among those many, many followers just to organize missionary activities. Other devotees are Atmanandi, or self-satisfied, and do not take the risk of preaching work. They therefore remain alone with God. In this classification was Kardama Muni. He wanted to be free from all anxieties and remain alone within his heart with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Prabhupada's describing there the different kinds, different moods. Somebody wants to be alone, they take sannyas, they renounce, they're alone with Krishna. And somebody else, like Srila Prabhupada, he took sannyas to distribute the knowledge, to distribute Krishna consciousness to others. And Prabhupada talks how sannyasis, they should not live anywhere for more than 3 days. He must be always moving. And that way he doesn't get attached to any one place. Because it's a bit difficult these days, my goodness, with all the things which have been going on the last few years, we haven't been able to move. I've been staying here in Mayapur for 2 years. It's anyway, special circumstances, but generally, the rule was 3 days. And Prabhupada followed like that when he was in Kenya. Prabhupada went to Kenya, Africa, Kenya, and he was there. And there's a number of Gujarati people live there. And so they would arrange Prabhupada to stay, and Prabhupada would only stay 3 days in each person's house. Because initially we didn't have a temple, so there was no place for Prabhupada to stay. So the Indian people would invite Prabhupada to their home, and so he would only stay 3 days, and then he would move to another house. And in this way, 3 days, only one house. Not more than 3 days. All in Nairobi, but different houses. He said any more than 3 days, then it's a burden for people. So you don't want to be a burden. So Prabhupada would move after 3 days. That's general principle. And Narada Muni, of course, he was also cursed by Daksha, that he could not stay in any one place. That was a blessing for Narada Muni. You stay in one place, you get attached, and you start to accumulate things. Right? The longer we stay, the more attachments we have, the more difficult it comes for us to move. So you keep moving, then you can be free from attachment. So Kardama Muni, he wants to do that. He wants to be moving. He said he wants to be a paribrajak, an itinerant mendicant. There are different kinds of sannyasis. There's 4 stages of sannyas. Kutichak, Bahudak, Paramahansa and Paribrajakacharya. 4 different levels of practicing sannyas. So in the beginning you can be near to your home even, and your family can send you food every day. If somebody's not used to, sannyasi's not been living at home, he's used to having his food always from the home. But now he's become sannyasi, he's out from the home, so how to get food? So the family can send to him every day. Of course, that's just the initial stage of sannyas. And then later on, that's kutichak, and then bahudak. Bahudak is where he's further away from the family and he's living in some other place. He's living in a town or something, and he's preaching there. And then Paramahamsa is moving around. Prabhupada described himself, he said, Jet-age Paramahamsa. Jet-age Paramahamsa, one day in Italy, another day in London, next day in America, then off to Australia. He said in this way, Jet-age Paramahamsa, traveling and preaching. So that kind of sannyas is not possible for everyone. But Srila Prabhupada did it for some time. Prabhupada circled the globe many times. In his 10 years of preaching, I think he circled the globe, 15 times. Alright, so Kadama Muni's made his request that he wants to renounce everything and become a sannyasi. So Lord Kapila replies, So Lord Kapila said, I fulfilled your desire. I said I would become your son. Now I've done it. So I told you I would do it. I said I'm doing it. So that's the first thing Lord Kapila tells to Kadama Muni. And he said, whatever I speak, it's authoritative. It's in the scriptures. Prabhupada in this purport, and he discusses about Kadama Muni leaving home. He said, God himself was present in the home. Why should he leave home? Usually, people leave home like Dhruva Maharaj. He went to look for God. He wanted to get blessing. He said, oh, maybe God, his mother said, God could help you. Where to find God? Now people go to the forest. So Dhruva Maharaj went to look for God in the forest. So Kadama Muni, God has already come to his home. Why does he need to leave home? And so Prabhupada talks about that here, and he explains that this is a duty. He'd done his duty as a householder, that was finished. Now his next duty is there. And the next duty is to practice renunciation. So that's the Vedic system. We see great devotee, and for example, Balabhacharya, Pushti Marg, maybe you know the Pushti Marg people. So Balabhacharya, he was a householder, and he had children. He had sons and everything. And the sons also, they were good devotees, and they took on the worship of Srinathji. And Balabhacharya, he took sannyas. He also took sannyas. He renounced the home. Took sannyas. There's another kind of sannyas, is called Kshetra sannyas. Kshetra sannyas, where you go to live in a holy place. Like Gadadhar Pandit, he was a Kshetra sannyas. He was living there. He never left the holy place. He was living in Jagannath Puri. Took a vow to stay there. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Kshetra sannyas is appropriate for this Kali Yuga. People can go and stay in a holy place. Like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he had his wife and his daughter and everything there. But he was like a Kshetra sannyasi. He was renounced. So Prabhupada says here at the bottom, Kardama Muni's example is very instructive, for in spite of having the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he left home just to obey the authority of the Vedic injunction. Kardama Muni states here the main purpose of his leaving home while traveling all over the world as a mendicant. He would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart and thereby be freed from the anxieties of material life. So the real purpose is to remember the Lord. Just like we do fasting on Ekadasi. What is the real purpose? To remember the Lord, to increase our remembrance. On Janmashtami, we fast. Why do we fast? To remember the Lord, to think more about Krishna. So this is the real purpose of all of our penances and austerities and sacrifices and whatever we do. It's meant to increase our remembrance of Krishna. In Kali Yuga, the injunction is no one should take sannyas. Of course, those who actually follow the rules and regulations must take sannyas. The main purpose of sannyas life is to be in constant companionship with the Supreme Lord, either by thinking of him within the heart or hearing of him through oral reception. And Prabhupada said hearing is very important. But then the process of chanting is the best process of self-realization in this age. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya preached so nicely for the benefit of all humanity. Hearing is important, and chanting is even more important. Hearing is in the beginning. We have to hear in the beginning. And once we have heard, then we should repeat. We should chant. We should continue to propagate what we've heard. Then 36, Lord Kapila describes his purpose in coming to explain the philosophy of Sankhya, to help people to become free from material desires. In other words, we have to purify our desires. We cannot give up desire, but we can purify the desires. Then text 37, the path of self-realization is difficult to understand, has now been lost in the course of time. So Lord Kapila said, I've come to teach it again, to re-establish it, right? When the disciplic succession is broken, then the Lord comes again to re-establish the line of disciplic succession. Prabhupada writes, similarly, Kapila also said that the system of Sankhya philosophy was not exactly being introduced by him. It was already current, but in course of time, it was mysteriously lost, and therefore he appeared to reintroduce it. The Lord comes to re-establish the religious principles. Paritranaya sadhunam vinaschaya cha duskritam dharma samstarpanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. In every age it happens. The knowledge is lost. The Lord has to come and re-establish. So Lord Kapila tells Kardama, worship me, surrender to me, conquer over death, and you will get eternal life. And Prabhupada talks about the modern scientists. They do not have sufficient means to understand the process of victory over birth and death. Therefore, they set aside the question of birth and death. They do not consider it. They simply engage in the problems of the material body, which is transient and sure to end. They cannot solve the problem of birth and death. They have no answers. That's our department. We teach that. The doctors, they deal with the temporary problems. So Prabhupada, at the end of the purport here, 38, Vedic knowledge confirms that one becomes entangled in this material life because of ignorance, and that one can become free from material embarrassment by becoming situated in factual knowledge. Sankhya means the factual knowledge by which one can get out of the material entanglement. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, we had the example of the banyan tree. How to get out of that banyan tree? Remember that banyan tree, the reflection of the spiritual world. There's a banyan tree. Urdhva mulam, right? The roots are up and the branches down. So how to get out of the banyan tree? You have to have the axe. The axe to cut way out. You cannot just get free any other way. It's too big a tree, it's too deep rooted. You have to cut your way out. So the axe, that axe is their detachment from the material world. When we act with detachment, we have to sharpen the axe. We have to renounce, we have to cultivate that detachment from anything which is not in relation to Krishna consciousness. And that will free us from this entanglement with the material world. So Prabhupada talks about the Brahmajyoti and the impersonal feature of the Lord, and how we can actually see the Lord everywhere. The less intelligent cannot understand. It is stressed everywhere, again and again, simply by seeing the form of the Lord as he presents himself by his own internal potency as Krishna or Rama or Kapila. One can directly see the Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti is no more than the effulgence of his bodily luster. Of course, we don't want to just see the Brahmajyoti, we want to go through the Brahmajyoti to see the form. The idea is to see the form, not to see the formless, not to just see the light, to see the energy, but to see the source of the energy, to see the source of the light. Our focus is on that. So Kardama Muni speaks about his mission and how he's going to deliver his mother. He's going to speak to his mother and guide her so she can get free from all of her entanglement in the material world. Prabhupada said, a very good example is set here. The husband goes away, taking the sannyas order for self-realization. But his representative, the son, who is equally educated, remains at home to deliver the mother. So Prabhupada appreciates that. Prabhupada was a family man himself. So he had a wife, and at home he had his sons. And so you could say there's a message to his sons. Sannyasi is not supposed to take his wife with him. At the vanaprastha stage, or retired life, one may keep his wife as an assistant. But in the sannyas order of life, we cannot keep the wife. So Kardama Muni followed the Vedic injunctions that no one in sannyas life can have any kind of relationship with women. What is the position of a woman who is left by her husband? So that is very important. We don't want to be neglectful. We have a duty, have responsibility. So we see Kardama Muni, he left his wife with her son. That Kapila Muni was there to take care of his wife. It wasn't that Kardama was neglectful. He provided everything for his wife. He took her traveling to visit all the holy places. They went everywhere and they enjoyed. Then they had their children, and the children were given in marriage. The 9 daughters were all married, and she has a son who's an incarnation of God. So you could never want more than what Devahuti got. Devahuti was the most fortunate lady. She got the most wonderful things. She got everything a woman could want. A very wonderful husband, 9 daughters, a son who is an incarnation of God. You couldn't want more than that. So Devahuti was the most fortunate. But what about her? She's still at home. So Prabhupada explains the ideal son, Kapila Muni, is assuring his father of the deliverance of his mother, so that his father may go peacefully without anxiety for his good wife. So certainly some attachment would be there. Kardama Muni had spent a lot of time with his wife. They had a lot of contact with each other, and they had children together. So he would be concerned about her. He couldn't just go off and leave her and be neglectful. But Lord Kapila is telling his father that you don't have to worry. I'm taking care of her mother, my mother. I'll take care of her. So that is important. And that is the principle in taking sannyas. Any man who wants to take sannyas, it's very important that he takes care, makes all arrangement for his family members. If family members are dependent, he has to first of all make arrangements to satisfy them. What to speak of sannyas, even if one is just a brahmachari or just becoming a devotee in Krishna consciousness movement, if his family are dependent on them, then they will make arrangements that the boy who wants to become a devotee, he first of all has to take a job, and he has to earn money, and he has to give sufficient money to satisfy his family, so that the family are satisfied and taken care of, and then he can become devotee. Then he can become full-time devotee. So without taking care of his responsibilities, it's not good. You can't just walk away and be irresponsible. So Kardama Muni is not doing that. He's making all arrangements for Devahuti. He's making arrangements for her home and for her education and for her well-being. Everything provided. So then, Kardama Muni circumambulates Lord Kapila, and he left for the forest. He's off. He's leaving the home. He's going away. And Prabhupada said, everyone should go to the forest, at least as a vanaprastha. Forest going means to take 100% shelter of the Supreme Lord. That's what going to the forest means, to take full shelter, 100% of the Lord. To go to the forest does not mean to become a monkey or a ferocious animal. It means to accept exclusively the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage oneself in full service. So in our ISKCON society, they're very strict about awarding sannyas nowadays. There's many requirements, and there's also training and different courses which they have to go through, different requirements before people are allowed to be initiated into sannyas. So have very high standards increasing all the time, every year. Prabhupada wanted that the sannyasis, they're the head of the social body, and they have to be in good knowledge, and they have to be able to properly communicate, and they have to set the right example in terms of vairagya and vidya. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching. So Kardama Muni accepts a vow of silence, monavrat, right? He's taking a vow of silence. And but his vow of silence is to think of the Supreme Lord and to take shelter of him. I remember I was in one city in India. We were doing life membership. So there was one man there, one of our life members. He said, "Oh, I do monavrat every Sunday. Every Sunday I do monavrat. I don't speak at all on Sundays." Well, of course, the rest of the week, speak a lot. He's a businessman, runs his company and does business the whole week. But he says, Sunday, monavrat. No speaking. So that's all right, no speaking, but the idea is to think of Krishna, not just to make the mind blank. Some people, they try to do monavrat and they're just thinking of sense gratification all the time. So the idea is to absorb the mind fully in remembering Krishna and thinking of Krishna. So to do that kind of thing, you have to know something about Krishna. You have to be able to understand about the qualities and the activities of Krishna, the birth of Krishna. All of these things have to be understood. Then we can think of him. But if you don't know about the Lord, you don't know about his act, how will you think of him? You have to know about him. So this is why we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam like this. The idea is that you'll come to know more about the Lord, and you can think of him much better after hearing more about these different pastimes and activities. Then it becomes more meaningful to us, and it's easier for us to contemplate the Lord. So Prabhupada talks about, again, renunciation. He says, sannyasi should not have his own home. He should depend completely on the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his food and lodging. And he should travel. Mona necessitates refraining from nonsense talking and engaging the talking facility in the pastimes of the Lord. And ahimsa means not being violent. There are 18 processes for attaining knowledge and perfection. And by his vow, Kadama Muni adopted all the principles of self-realization. So different principles, requirements for renunciation. The items of knowledge are mentioned there in the Bhagavad Gita. Amanitvam, adamvitvam. No, how does it go? The humility, pridelessness, non-violence, like that, these things, they're all mentioned there. 18 items mentioned for the attainment of knowledge. Mentioned in the 13th chapter, Bhagavad Gita. So Kadama Muni accepts all these principles, following them all. Renounced life is not a joke. It's a difficult thing in the Kali Yuga. Very, very difficult, very demanding. And the idea of renunciation is to engage fully in the service of Krishna, to dedicate oneself more fully to the service of the Lord, not to become lazy and do nothing, but to dedicate oneself completely to the service of God. So then we hear about Kadama Muni, how he achieved perfection. His mind became very peaceful. He gave up everything. Text 44 in the Purport, Prabhupada writes, he does not look outside to material nature, but he looks in to the spiritual nature of his existence. With a sober mind, he simply engages in the service of the Lord. Thus he realizes his own self without self-identification with matter and without affection for material possessions. Such a great devotee is never in trouble with others because he sees everyone from the platform of spiritual understanding. He sees himself and others in the right perspective. So looking in rather than looking out, that's important. Seeing oneself as a spiritual being, not to see oneself as a material body. Thinking oneself in terms of the external body, the physical body, that is just ignorance. And so, we want to overcome that ignorance. We want to develop the real consciousness. So, spiritual consciousness. So Prabhupada discusses about how Kapila Muni achieved this perfection, how he got completely freed from all material affection. And he explains, just simply by doing bhakti, we can be free from all this material affection. Everything comes by bhakti. Gyan and vairagya all develops in the course of devotional service. At the end of 45, Prabhupada writes, one should not think that he is freed from reaction because he has forgotten the actions of his past life. Reactions will take place, and what kind of reaction there will be is judged by the super soul, the witness. So we don't remember our past life, but the super soul remembers everything, and we get the reactions. All right, so it's pretty much the main theme of the chapter. Kardama Muni's left home, Devahuti's left there with Kapila, and Lord Kapila is going to instruct her. And those instructions begin in the next chapter, chapter 25, which is going to explain devotional service. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the verse 2, it was said that the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead will shortly enter your womb. Again, it said that Bahutite Kale, that means after a long time. So how should we understand this?
Yeah. Well, it's all relative, right? What is a long time and what is not a long time? I also wondered about that. It said after many, many years. Satya Yuga, many, many years, it's not necessarily, it can be a short time because the life is so long in Satya Yuga. Anyway, the Lord would appear in the womb, but He's already in the womb, He's already there, He was already in the womb, He's everywhere. It's not that He's just going to appear in the womb, He's already there in the womb, He's there all the time, but He's going to come out. It took many years for Him to come out. But many years in Satya Yuga is just like many days in Kali Yuga.
Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, when in Kali Yuga, the marriage between close relatives is not encouraged. Whereas in all its Brahma's creation, how the progeny started, there is a marriage between very close relatives. How to understand this concept?
I'm sorry, Prabhu, it's not so clear to me. Can you say again?
Yeah. In present situation, the marriage between close relatives is not encouraged. Whereas in there is a very close relatives marriage happening. So how to understand this?
Where is the close relatives marrying?
In Brahmaji children, they marrying to the devotees, daughters, all.
Brahma's children, yeah. Yeah, well, it's the beginning of the creation. There was no other people, right? They were the beginning. They had they didn't have a lot of choice. You could say close relatives, but Kardama Muni's sons and the great sages. We see also Lord Krishna even. You can see in Lord Krishna sometimes that it happens like that. Some relatives, also close relatives, are married.
Can I ask one question, Maharaj?
Yes.
Maharaj, he said Srila Prabhupada got a lot of curses from his disciples, parents, and like that. And how did you manage your situation, Maharaj, when you joined the Krishna consciousness?
Well, I'm coming from the Western world, Western society. We don't have a lot of attachment to the family and parents. I was already living away from home. From the time I was a student, I went to university, and so I was pretty much away from the home from that time. After I went to college, I hardly saw my parents much at all. So when I became a devotee, it wasn't like I had to consult them or anything. I didn't have any real I'm not the eldest son, my older brother was there, and so he was there at home, so I didn't really worry much about them. I was pretty much independent. So I became a devotee. After I became a devotee, actually my sister also became a devotee. My sister also took initiation from Prabhupada. So she followed me. My parents, they encouraged her. They didn't mind. They could see it's a good thing. They could see it's a good thing, you know, that so many other people, there are so many other problems, you know, so many people are so sinful and engaged in so many crimes and bad habits and so on. So becoming a devotee of Krishna is actually a good thing. It's a good life, to get away from all those bad habits and bad things, to stay away from it, separate from it. So my parents appreciated that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have one more question. In verse 13, it is said that we should obey the command of the father and, you know, like yes sir type, you know. But should we have to really do that in this one? Also, when we see the examples of Ayati also, his request was for mostly for the sense gratification only. So how should we understand this, Maharaj?
Well, you have to consider what's favorable for your Krishna consciousness. Yes, the father. We're thinking more of the father more in terms of your spiritual father. You should obey the order of your spiritual father. Your seminal father may not, you know, his instructions may not always be so good for your Krishna consciousness. So how much you can follow the instructions of your seminal father, that will depend on his position. Where is he at? You know, if he tells you he wants you to go and drink with him, I want you to come with me and we'll go drinking, then, you know, of course you don't want to do it. So we have to be discriminating there, to know what kind of instructions you're getting and what's actually helpful for you. So the spiritual father, he will think of your spiritual interest. But the seminal father, we don't know. It's going to depend on what is his particular position. Where is he at? No, the father tells you, I want you to eat meat, I want you to do like this, then it's a problem, you know. Your father wants you to eat meat, the father wants you to drink. It's not good. Prabhupada said his father arranged his marriage. That was good. Prabhupada didn't like the wife. Father said, that's good. It's good you don't like her too much. Right? It's better. If you like her too much, not so good. Yeah? Any other questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. I have one question. You mentioned every ashrama we do upgrade the ashrama. So as we are Grihastha, so for living, in our recommending after 50, 55 years, one must take Vanaprastha and further upgrade their ashrama. So at this present situation, the most of family members, Grihastha ashrama, their responsibilities, their family complete by 50, 55, because the children still studying and they have to settle down. It means marriage and all. So in such cases, what is your recommendation, Maharaj, to the at present Grihastha ashrama people? So how to upgrade? Because what situation one must go for, like this Vanaprastha and all.
Sorry, Prabhu, what says you? One must go what?
At what situations one must take the vanaprastha from the grihastha to vanaprastha? So, in what situations one can take?
Well, you have to consider how much your responsibilities have been met. For example, children may be there. You may be worried that, you have to arrange children's marriage. Prabhupada also left home. He said there was still a daughter to be married. But he said, I let the family take care of that. He said, I didn't arrange it. He left at home. So it depends a lot on your individual relationship and how much capability you have. But certainly, age 50, 55, like that, that's a suitable time to enter into the vanaprastha, retired life. So retired life means you give up working. You're not working anymore in a job. And your business is focused more on spiritual practice. Maybe you have deities at home and you worship the deities every day, and you go to temple and you associate with devotees and you have classes and so on. So that's vanaprastha life. And some vanaprasthas, they even go off to the holy places and they travel in the holy places. So you don't have to go and visit to the holy places. You can be in vanaprastha life and be at home also. But you don't work anymore. You're finished with material responsibilities. Right? You're not earning income, really. So it means you're just simply doing your puja. So how do you maintain your life? Well, maybe you have pension. You should have some pension should be there or something. That's convenient. If you have your own pension, then you're all right. You can take care of yourself. And some people even come to live in Mayapur or Vrindavan. They come and live here in the holy place, and they get some income just enough to maintain to maintain themselves. You eat prasadam, and and we wear simple cloth. Everybody wearing dhoti and so on. So simple cloth and eat prasadam and living here in Mayapur, then you don't have much expenses. You don't have a lot of expenses. You're just working in the service of Krishna. Take up some service in the temple, helping whatever they need. So you come and you can do like that also. There are a number of devotees who have retired from Middle East, have come here, they live in Mayapur and they're doing some service here and making nice contributions to the Mayapur community by being here and by doing whatever their capabilities are. Some even have got managerial positions and some are just workers and so on. But everything according to individual's capability and desire. That's also vanaprastha. They're not worried, they're not focusing so much on earning big incomes anymore. They just get a very minimum allowance to maintain their life. And they're happy because they're in the spiritual environment, not worried about more money and promotion and so on like that. So that's the vanaprastha ashram. More time for hearing and chanting and worshipping and association with devotees. Can you understand, Prabhu?
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the enlightening advice. So, thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu, somebody raised their hand there. They've got a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the enlightening and a wonderful session. I just had a very small question related to the sages. The sages are already such exalted personalities who are serving the Supreme Lord. So what is the necessity for them to get married, Maharaj?
Well, necessity is that they can have children and they can help to populate more, to fill up the universe. The universe has to continue to function. And so they're great sages, they will have good children. The children will also be very good progeny. So we need that kind of progeny to fill up the universe. Not that it's not the necessity on their part, but it's their duty in relation to their father, to Brahma. That Brahma wants them to fill up the universe with good living entities, to produce good progeny. So by getting them married, by accepting a wife, then it's possible. Without the wife, how they can do it?
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, pranams. Maharaj, I would like to thank you, and I'm very grateful for all your patient and tolerant replies. And even though this section was completely full of Grihastashram and the duties of Grihastashram, you were very scrutinizingly, analyzingly giving many practical tips, and it was wonderful session go in your guidance, Maharaj. Thank you very much for your very Krishna conscious realizations and your association, and just seeking your blessings to be able to grasp some of these aspects for Grihastha so that we can follow in our lives. And please, Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, very
Thank
nice.
you, Maharaj, for your association.
Very nice. Thank you, Maraji. Thank you for giving me opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we'd like to all thank you for your wonderful association, and also clarified so many points which related to Grihastha life. From the beginning, I was very skeptical how Maharaj handled this situation, but he handled very nicely, very wonderfully, gave a lot of tips, and in fact, we learned a lot of things from this whole episode of Devati and Kardama Muni marriage life. And thank you all again for giving us such a nice insight. And I request you to come to Shamadesh, Damadadesh, and give us personal association.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu. Very kind of you. So I thank all of you for your time and for the opportunity to associate with you all and to have some Krishna conscious katha. And I wish you all good luck with your ongoing study, Bhakti-vaibhava, and maybe we'll meet again in the future also. So thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki. Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki. Hare Krishna.